Good morning. Welcome everyone to Unity Spiritual Center Spokane for our live streaming Sunday morning experience, where our mission is transforming lives and inspiring people to make a positive difference in our world. We want to begin our service, our experience together, by affirming our opening affirmation. There is only one presence and one power active and at work in my life and in the universe, God the Good. So let me try that again now that I can read it. There is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe, God the Good. And so if you have an exception to that principle, in other words, if something is happening in your world that is other than just God going on, well, you're in your right and perfect place, because we're all about really breaking through those exceptions that we might have to the principle that there's just God going on. And so in these times, our challenge is to know that in the midst of our pandemic and all the ways in which we're challenged, how can we be in this experience knowing that it's all for us? And how can we begin to think in a way that really begins to explore the possibilities of how our lives can be brought forth into a greater expression of who and what we've come here to be? And so as we, go ahead and switch me back now, Caleb, thank you. So as we get into our, oops, that's the wrong one. Let me do this one. Here we go. We're getting the technology to work the way it's supposed to today. There we are. Okay. All right, so it is going to become our routine to begin our time together after our opening, to begin to talk about what's happening with respect to our community and the things that are affecting us and our ability to be able to be present to you in this way on Sunday morning. So we want to begin by reminding us of what's happening on the inside of our organization.
Yes, well, it's very different here without all of you, by the way. And so one of the things, as I mentioned last week, we're doing is wellness calls. And we have begun that. We haven't completed them all yet, but just wanted to remind you that if you do not get one, to email me, Dr. Jane at unityspokane.org, and let me know that you haven't received a call. And if you, because we would like to give you one if you're not getting it. And it's our way of trying to stay connected to our beloved congregation. So be sure and check in with me if you're not receiving those, if you haven't yet.
All right. So I want to, first of all, last week I mentioned about the Tithely app and how it's important for us to continue to receive what you intend for us to benefit from in terms of your love offerings and support. And so I just want to thank all of those of you who are already participating in the Tithely app program and are involved in the automatic giving options that live in that experience. So we want to remind everyone that absent of being able to receive the love offerings and donations from those who are present, we are strained financially. And so if we think about maybe having to do this for the next 2 or 3 months, it's going to be really important for everyone to show up in an effort to make sure that our well-being in terms of being able to present the live streaming as well as support our staff is not going to be in jeopardy. So I just want to keep that in front of everyone. And if you're already involved in some form of automatic giving through your own bank bill pay or through our credit card debit program, or if you're religiously writing your checks, we just want to appreciate all the ways in which you sustain us in these times. And so we appreciate that quite a bit. All right, so we're going to move right next into our meditation experience. It's going to be a little longer one, so get comfortable and be in a place where you can just settle back and enjoy this experience. So as we get ready to do this, I invite you to settle into this moment. And so as we begin, let us breathe together. So as I imagine the 160 souls that are a part of our spiritual community, and as I visualize it on my own mind, all of us now entering into this sacred moment, experiencing a depth of the love that we have, not only for this ministry, but for all the ways in which all of us participate and interact in each other's lives, and ways in which are different now. And so we affirm our connection. We begin in the awareness of our oneness with each other. And as we settle into this moment, as we begin to breathe together, I invite you to simply follow my lead, follow my coaching. I'll invite you to breathe in and to hold and to release and to rest as a part of just filling ourselves with a sense of presence, spirit, and life, shifting our body's chemistry into calm and ease, serenity, opening our heart and activating our vagus nerve, allowing for there to be a greater coherence between mind and heart and body. And so as we settle into this moment, just allow the chair or wherever you are completely hold you and support you. And if you can keep your spine straight and your head extended so that your shoulders drop, imagine yourself as like an antenna, poised, centered, ready to begin this breath. And so breathe in. And hold. And release. And rest. Breathe in. Hold. Release. Rest. Breathe in. Hold. Release. And rest. Let us now rest into this now moment, bringing into our awareness now someone or something that we appreciate, that brings forth a felt experience of gratitude, love, and appreciation. And whether it's a life partner, a child, cherished pet, a fond memory, a friend, let us allow those feelings to grow, to infill, to rise up, to extend beyond our physical selves, filling the space, allowing this feeling of gratitude and love to find its way. To go where love needs to go. And in that going, find its place as source, as wholeness, as power, as healing, as peace. And so let us become aware of this field of infinite possibilities And as we sense the space within which we are a part of a greater whole, let us experience ourselves as this unified field of wholeness, oneness, interbeingness. Going now beyond any sense of self, releasing any sense of place or time, allowing our awareness to go beyond our physical self and enter into the pure light and awareness of presence. Infinite, vast, spacious presence. Let us feel a part of this grand, vast, one life. Let us feel a connection that moves us into a greater sense of clarity, of understanding, of knowing. And in the vastness of this now moment, let us give ourselves to that activity that seeks as the one, as the Christ. And so as we continue in this awareness of the vastness of oneness, connection, of presence, let us simply go beyond the words now, beyond my voice, and just be carried now for the next few moments into the greater sense of oneness and power and freedom. Breathe in and release. Breathe in and release. As we bring our awareness back into this time and place, mindful again of the body-mind that is a part of this process that is living itself, expressing itself as a divine being. And so in the recognition that we are children of God, divine beings, here to make a difference, to be the ones. For knowing this truth and for allowing its expression to unfold as the essence of who we are, we give thanks. Thank you, beloved Spirit. And so it is. Amen. Let's hear Shauna and Tanya next. How does that sound?
Sounds wonderful.
I know. This is awesome.
Yes. Here they come.
Sacred love is all that you are. You are sacred love. Sacred love is all that you are. You are sacred love. Sacred love is all that you are. Sacred love, God, sacred love is all that you are. Show the way, God, show the way. I want to live in such a state of grace. Lead the way, God, lead the way. I want to live in such a holy place, such a holy place. You are blessed peace is all that you are. You are blessed peace, child, blessed peace is all that you are. Show the way, God, show the way. I want to live in such a state of grace. Lead the way, God, lead the way. I want to live in such a holy place. Such a holy place. You are deepest joy is all that you are. You are deepest joy is all that you are. Show the way, God, show the way. I want to live in such a state of grace. Lead the way, God, lead the way. I want to live in such a holy place. Show the way, God, show the way. I grace. I want to live in such a state of grace. Lead the way, guide ways. I want to live in such a holy place. In such a holy place. You are sacred love. Sacred love is all that you are. You are sacred love, God. Sacred love is all that you are. Sacred love is all that you are. Sacred love is all that you are.
Wow. How beautiful. Thank you, Shauna and Tanya. That's just what I needed this morning, I'll tell you. I'm feeling some emotion here today because I miss everybody, but I'm glad we're staying connected in this way. So I was reminded earlier this week by one of our members' Facebook posts about something that I talked about almost exactly 1 year ago, and that is being an Apocaloptimist. You might remember that one. And that means a person who can see that the world is in dire straits at the moment and yet continues to have hope and about the future. And you know, it's not an easy task. And yet, it's well worth the effort. And it's really what we're all being called to a higher place to be practicing. The world needs Apocaloptimists right now, like never before. And here's why Martin Luther King said, whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. And then he goes on to say, I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. This is the interrelated structure of reality. And what's happening in the world right now affects all of us. We're in this together. We're sharing the same journey as never before, every nation. And while it's true that we're all together, it's important for us to also note that every one of us is seeing this, experiencing this through the lens of our own beliefs, mitigated by our early conditioning, our brain function, our role and place in society, our education, our personal needs, our cultural biases, our assumptions, even our political views are in the mix for this. And so we want to have compassion. Compassion for everyone, compassion for ourselves, compassion for all of us as we go through this together. And even though we are having to be socially distant, we can still have social solidarity. Social solidarity, which is the sense that we're in a shared experience, even though we're not together. And it's we can maintain an emotional connection while honoring the 6 feet away from each other, the physical distance. And it's social solidarity that brings retired nurses back into work, volunteering to help. It's social solidarity that keeps healthy young people staying home to flatten the curve. So many of us have been sounding an alarm for years that our current cultural story is not sustainable. The story that's based on the belief in separation, our corporate-driven economy, our consumerism, our harmful ecological practices, all of that. Our Western lifestyle is just not sustainable, and in fact, it causes great suffering for many people, especially marginalized folks. And for some time now, we've been really watching the cracks forming in the current cultural practices and seeing the old ways beginning to crumble. And while that's been happening, many of us have been feeling that there's something greater that's wanting to emerge, that the story of separation is really moving towards being eclipsed by the reality of oneness, the reality of interbeing, of interdependence, of the meta reality. We're really seeing that coming into fruition, its expression. And as we've studied the evolutionary shifts of the past, we've done a lot of that, we've been seeing the beginning signs of something new emerging in the same way that we can see in the early spring, the growth is starting to peek through the ground and rise up from there. But now, before our very eyes, we're watching all that we've known being kind of snatched away from us. Restaurants closed, in-person gatherings curtailed, NBA tournaments, canceled, stock market crashing, empty churches. This is not a small thing. And it's gone from 0 to 90 in a very short time. We're seeing the breakdown of the cultural system that we have believed to be secure. And we've been starting to see through what Abdul Sharif calls the consensual lie that we've all said yes to and agreed upon. Now we're starting to see the matrix is being exposed. We're seeing behind the curtain. As my friend and writer Pam Grout pointed out, although Greta Thunberg got a jump on most of us when she refused to comply with society's accepted structures, school and business as usual, she was basically saying what we're all being shown right now. The matrix is being exposed. But what I want to say is that this could be humanity's finest hour. It truly could. This truly could be the time when the story changes. But of course, in order to change the story, first we have to make that internal shift that changes the way we view what's happening right now, from one of maybe despair or powerlessness, fear, worry, to one of acceptance of what is, but seeing beyond its appearance to what can be. That is apocalyptimistic thinking. So my talk title, From What Is to What If? What if this could be the opportunity for humanity to truly transform? What if this is the moment? What if it's time for us to evolve, rise up and evolve into our true noble selves? Can you imagine such a thing? New Thought author Eckhart Tolle writes this: accept, then act. Whatever the present moment contains, accept it as if you had chosen it. Always work with it, not against it. Make it your friend and ally, not your enemy. This will miraculously transform your whole life. And I think the two most powerful words in that statement are as if. Act as if you have chosen it. Act as if this is the cataclysmic evolutionary catalyst that you have been preparing your whole life to utilize in order to activate your inner powers. We don't have to like what's happening, but to deny divine presence in anything that we don't want only creates a sense of separation. It ultimately results in anxiety and pain and other forms of suffering. Once I can see and really know that God is fully present in whatever's showing up, now I can let go of the fear and trust in the power within me to guide me through it, to show me the way, to lift me up, to carry me through it. Unity's co-founder Charles Fillmore said this: the ideas of God are potential forces waiting to be set in motion through proper formative vehicles. And we're those vehicles. In other words, divine ideas are waiting to be activated through our thoughts and our actions. So what if the divine idea of a more compassionate, kinder world is poised to be brought into expression through each one of us? Could this be the moment that happens? So what is happening while the world is being forced to stop life as usual? Well, the canals in Venice are becoming cleaner. The air quality has significantly improved from less air travel. And we're hearing wonderful stories of caremongering. This term comes from a story I read about that's happening in Canada. During all of the social distancing, many people there are taking up practices like this, replacing the books that are in the little neighborhood libraries with non-perishable food for those in need. And this story is about Canadians, but of course, similar things are happening here, happening all around the world. People are getting very inventive with ways to stay together, like free waves. I thought that was So great. And there's now a website called Karunavirus.org that is featuring news articles of people choosing love over fear. Karuna is a Sanskrit word meaning compassion. And if a tiny invisible virus can spread across the globe this quickly, if it can upend everything we mistakenly have believed as our security, think how fast we could transmit a different, truer story, a story of love, a story of connection and oneness. Think how quickly we could spread the Karuna virus, which is compassion in action. What if this is the time for us to do it? What if it's the time to deepen our connection with the source that lives within us, to stop the frenetic pace that we typically race march to, to take our spiritual practices deeper, to write, to paint, to walk in the woods, to clear out clutter from our lives, to downsize, to connect with our higher self in a way that we've never had before, and to eat well, to exercise, to do all the things that we say we want to do but never get time to. And how about if this is our time to spread kindness and compassion throughout our world in these novel new ways? For a long time now, we've been likening our role in bringing forth something greater as midwifing what's wanting to emerge. Well, guess what? That baby is being born. It's being born. There comes a time in the birthing process when labor intensifies and you know it's happening. There's no stopping it. The time is ripe for the emergence of a new paradigm because the old one is so rapidly becoming obsolete that it's all hands on deck and hold on to your hat. And we are in a position to assist in overturning consensus reality as we activate the divine idea of a kinder world and see it come into fruition in a way that we've never seen. We have the opportunity and the ability to go deep, to make the inner changes necessary to see them in our outer world. And this is not new information. In fact, way back in the late 1800s, William James said this: "The world we see that seems so insane is the result of a belief system that's not working. To perceive the world differently, we must be willing to change our belief system, let the past slip away, expand our sense of now, and dissolve the fear in our minds." Change our beliefs, release the past, become present to this moment, dissolve the fear. Part of the suffering that arises from such a disruptive and uncertain time comes from fear of the unknown. Questions like, how long will this last? Will I or someone I love contract the disease? What about my livelihood? Am I going to make it? Is the church going to survive? It's not easy to see the kinds of things that are going on in our world right now and not sink into fear or cynicism or despair. And these are all valid concerns. We certainly don't want to hide our head in the sand and ignore them. At the same time, we want to see the reality of those fears. You almost have to have a double vision, seeing the outer appearance and at the same time holding to the truth of what we know and keeping fear at bay. The writer Tam McKeeves suggests in order to do that, we practice social distancing ourselves from fear. Now, that doesn't mean ignoring safety precautions or being reckless in our behavior. We don't distance ourselves from our inner wisdom. We stay closely connected to that wisdom while taking the necessary precautions. Last week, we heard Deepak Chopra say that we need to get over our superstition of matter. And that's believing in the reality of the outer appearance in the material world. Instead, it's about acknowledging the fear while realizing that we are reacting to an outer condition that is not reality with a capital R. And to social distance ourselves from fear, we ironically have to meet it. We have to meet it with kindness. And so first, we go to a place of self-compassion for how challenging it is for us right now, for how frightening it is, for how hard it is to be stuck in anxiety and worry. And we meet that fear with care, with compassion. And as it is embraced with kindness, the fear can subside, the anxiety can relax, can dissipate. Then We take time in the silence to reconnect to that deeper truth, that God is our source, that divine mind is the avenue through which our health, our abundance, our joy of life manifests in our outer world. The security we seek can only be found within. And right now, we're being given the opportunity to really discover and live that truth to the depths that we've never done before. You know, it's easy to become very complacent in the transformative work that we're doing. Like, yes, I know I should be meditating every day, but I just don't have time. I know I should be exercising, but I got too much to do. I know I should be reading inspiring literature, taking the time for self-care and rest, but I can't stop working. Now, a good portion of our population has been thrust into the antithesis of all of that. Nothing but time, nowhere to go, jettisoned into a new way of being, almost like we have received permission to take the time for transformation. So imagine with me that you, on some deeper level of your being, have given yourself permission to transform through this time when our complacency has been shaken to its roots. And notice how transformation is showing up in your world. I mean, how many of us have learned new skills in meeting online recently? We've had no choice if we want to stay connected with those we love and care about. Finding ways for us as a community to continue meeting has called forth greater creativity, flexibility, and above all, making it okay to not be perfect. So do you see that as we're doing this, this makes our time together much more about rapidly transforming lives than it does about just having some kind of a social gathering. And of course, we want and miss the social aspect of this as well. So I'm thankful that we are still finding ways to connect in that sense, because I miss everybody. So as we move from what is to what if, we have to sharpen our skills as an Apocaloptimist, because I believe that optimism is an imperative part of this transformation work. And we can grow in our optimism as we ask ourselves these questions. What opportunities does this situation present for me to thrive and to flourish and to grow and evolve? What is right in front of me that I can utilize to accelerate my spiritual growth right now? Just imagine if this was happening for some sort of higher purpose, what would it be? Ask your higher self what that is. How can this help me to develop, to share divine qualities that live within me as potential? How can I actualize that potential? How can this experience serve to increase my compassion and my empathy? How can I practice caremongering? How can I grow from this? These are very empowering questions. And I'm going to give these questions at the end of my talk as homework. Work that takes us home. And I invite you to write them down. Spend some time this week asking your heart to reveal those answers. This is a very powerful practice, because when we can look from this perspective, that there's a gift somewhere in this that I can discover if I look hard enough, now we are social distancing from fear-mongering. That's the antidote to, terrorizing ourselves with anxiety-fueled and fear-based thinking. Instead, we pause and we let the deeper wisdom within our hearts answer those empowering questions. Be in the question. And we can shift to being the change rather than fearing the change. We can hunker down in fear, or we can look for the opportunity to compassionately make a difference. It's a moment-by-moment choice that we make. And as we awaken the loving kindness that lives within our hearts, we become part of a benevolent revolution. Exactly what we need to birth a new cultural paradigm of living. When the Spirit is alive in us, we wake up from that fear-based thinking and become very creative as our deeper intelligence becomes available for us. So let's use this creative intelligence to look for the good. Like this writing that a teacher posted to her students this week on social media. She said, "When you go out and see the empty streets, the empty stadiums, the empty train platforms, Don't say to yourself, it looks like the end of the world. What you're seeing is love in action. What you're seeing in that negative space is how much we do care for each other, for our grandparents, for our immunocompromised brothers and sisters, for people we will never meet. She goes on, people will lose jobs over this, some will lose their businesses, some will lose their lives. All the more reason to take a moment when you're out on your walk or on your way to the store or just watching the news to look into the emptiness and marvel at all of that love. Let it fill you and sustain you. It isn't the end of the world, she says. It is the most remarkable act of global solidarity we may ever witness. Global solidarity. This is social artistry in expression. Rather than social distancing, we can think of it as social artistry. Or, as I saw on Facebook this week, being exiled for the good of the realm. I love that. Much more interesting. So we're being called to stop focusing on the problems and become part of the solution. These poignant words of Thomas Paine, spoken way back in the 1700s, are more relevant today than ever. He simply said, we have it in our power to begin the world again. And as we move from what is to what if, we open the door to a new beginning. So this week, I invite you to use this quiet time to take advantage of the opportunity to transform. Consider these questions. Really give them some time to mull over. Journal your answers. Let your heart speak to you. Just really ask. Ask for the guidance. Become a living sermon in sharing your love with the world in whatever way you can. Think of it as advanced training in becoming a bona fide, card-carrying, licensed, and certified caremongering Apocaloptimist. And so what I want to say is that if you email me, drjane@unityspokane.org, and let me know how you're becoming a caremongering Apocaloptimist, I will actually send you a certificate. I have made some certificates. You will receive one. You can have it framed on your wall. Again, I miss everyone, but I'm so glad we can stay connected this way. And so it is.
Well, you can pass that to me now.
You pass it over.
Yeah, so taking it to heart. So one of the things that was, I was taking notes, and every time I would start to write down something that I wanted to remember to visit with you about, you were off on the next thing, and I missed getting that down. But one of the things that we're becoming more and more aware of, and we're hearing this now, even on TV and stuff, that we're all in this together. And it's as if, for the first time, and I don't know, maybe this is the first time, the society is just reveling in this reality. We're all in this together. And if we look at all the things that happen that are cataclysmic, and if we can begin to think of all the things that are happening that are so disruptive and so hard for us to kind of wrap ourselves around because they cause us to have to reconfigure our own identity, our own sense of who we are in relationship to what seem to be things you can count on. I mean, you can't count on things anymore, like the stock market, for instance. But as we recognize that the things that are happening that are so cataclysmic are actually evolutionary, and that it's really about bringing us into not just the realization that we're all in this together, but the reality of that, and the congruence of living in integrity with that reality, which lives out of answering the question: how can I see this as something that I've asked for, that I'm wanting, because it's causing me to have to reconfigure myself. But not as a deficit, but because that's something that we want to do anyway. Like you say, we want to transform our lives. How can we use what is happening in ourselves and in our world to actually affect that? Because what we don't want to do is go back the way we were. and maybe there's a mechanism in nature, in life, that prevents us from ever going back to where we were. And if this is true, that the baby is coming, it's being born, there's no doubting that, then can we not welcome whatever is emerging, and at the same time recognizing that we have to push through this and create new dimensions and experiences of what's possible, and therefore what we're capable of within ourselves, that heretofore could not have existed unless these circumstances were pulling us forward into that. So anyway,
Sounds good.
I think that was one of your most awesome talks. And I got to tell you,
Thank you.
While I'm on the inside of knowing what's behind these talks and what it takes to kind of come up with the precision of your conveyance and what you want to express, to me is phenomenal. But the effort behind this is something that you need to know, folks, that Jane lives in the awareness of really wanting to embody what these principles are, because if we just live in the conversation that life could be better and not actually experiencing being in the struggle and what it takes to pull it forth, we haven't touched that depth. And I really seen you reaching that depth, and I really feel blessed in being able to share this journey with you in that way.
Thanks.
I know. Sorry,
I
it was a
feel the
little
same.
private moment here.
I feel the same way.
So in a moment, we're going to meet as a community through the Zoom experience. And so Caleb's going to put in the YouTube chat the link that you can just click on, and you'll be able to just go directly to that. And just want to remind everyone that click on the donate button and give us a little of your love that way if you can. We really appreciate it. Our staff and the board appreciate that as well. We're going to close now with that Mind movie that we shared last week. This time there won't be an interruption. And then after the movie, give us 1 minute, and I'll open up the Zoom portal, and we'll get started with our Zoom meet and greet. So here we go.